Hello and welcome everyone. Pleasure
Mm,
to be here
hello.
with all of you wonderful women. Hey, Margarine. Hey, I think I saw Andrea. How are you both? We've seen each other before.
Yes,
Um,
so good
Yeah,
to see you again.
nice to see you guys.
Good to see you again and happy to meet all of you, Sharon, Emily, Ruth. Um, very excited for this panel because for humanity, women spearheading social change. My name is Andrea Camargo. I'm a founder, but also an environmentalist and plant-based advocate. I founded Refi Collective. We do consulting around regeneration, also social change, and are inspired by nature to provide solutions. So, very happy to be here with you all. Um, Okay, let's start by presenting ourselves and maybe telling about the projects we're working on. I know some of you girls have very interesting research going on. Let's start with Emily. Do you want to present yourself and maybe tell us about your research and your projects?
Yeah, hi, I'm Emily Wright. I'm the creator of It'll Be Alright. My main interest is in the psychology of discrimination, and I have written a book about the relationship between subconscious and algorithmic bias and how that feeds to greater biases. I'm also very interested in the way in which we can reprogram our own minds. So I have a social media series called Mind Bites, and every month I present just a little tip or a little technique about how we can proactively work with our minds, with our thoughts and our emotions to reprogram ourselves to be able to better process information and to therefore be able to make more improved decisions.
Wow, that's really interesting. I dive into a little bit of your research, and it was mind blowing. We will talk about it later in this panel. Um,
Thank you.
Ruth, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. Ruth Diaz, and I have been working in metaverse related or immersive reality related projects for a few years now. I focus on helping people see through the eyes of somebody that isn't like them. So I've built a lot of different experiences that focus on empathy building and also multiple perspectives, like intersectional diversity. How do we really create that life experience so that those of us with privilege can be more mindful and then also practice releasing that privilege and redistributing it and creating true equality? So, yeah, virtual reality, lots of fun world hops and gamified experiences, but also really deep and thoughtful pieces too.
Thank you, Ruth. I read a little bit about your dot model, and I was you know I felt the relationship between technology and what we need to think about on the other side of ourselves, like going deep and having this sense of presence and not just using technology for different means, but go deep. I love that.
Thank you for seeing that. That model is at the core of a lot of the work that I do in virtual reality, which is instead of thinking about conflict resolution, the DOT model is about conflict resiliency. And this concept that we can take micro conflicts, the small moments where we're disagreeing or feeling dissonant, and build relationship back. And I believe immersive technology is an incredible medium to do that and take risks and experiment with new ways to be in relationship.
That's amazing. Congratulations, Ruth, and welcome. Sharon, I saw your impressive background as well. You, sorry, you are a professor and have a doctorate degree. You want to talk a little bit about your experience and the awesome things you have done in finance and development.
Yeah. So I'm coming to you. First of all, greetings and thanks for having me here. It's wonderful to be part of this illustrious group of amazing women. I'm coming to you live from Cape Town, South Africa. I do teach finance at the University of Cape Town at the Graduate School of Business. And for the past 25 years, I have been involved in innovating around how we invest differently in women, particularly women in climate tech. I am a woman in climate tech myself. I'm a serial social impact entrepreneur and investor. And so when I teach project finance, I often teach about how to create a more sustainable and inclusive built environment. And that really led me into exploring how to use advancing technologies, primarily AI, Earth observation technologies, imaging, other kinds of technologies that are driving next generation predictive analytics so that we can really understand concepts like resilience, which is inherently complex. But by the time we're done, everyone's going to have an R score, a resilience score. But more importantly, how do we use AI, predictive analytics, to help businesses and governments to better partner so that they can close the value action gap and shift capital at scale into investing in marginalized communities? I'm all about climate justice. I'm all about investing differently in women in particular, in areas that are prone to adverse climate conditions, because we really do hold up half the sky. So I'm going to stop it there. I could go on, but I'm sure we have more time to talk later. So thanks. And I pronounced my name Sharron, and you wouldn't have known that.
All right, sorry about that. Happy
No
to
way.
have you, Sharon, and learn from you. Here in Colombia, we have some issues, relating to education and women, and this dissonance between what the government is doing and where the finances are going. So it would be very, very interesting to have this conversation with you. So thank you for being here. Andrea, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Wow, it's an honor to be here with all of you guys. It's really beautiful. I feel that there's a lot of intersections and lines that can be with what you're doing and what I'm trying to do with Noah also, what we're trying to do with Noah. So Noah is a community that connects creators, change agents, and indigenous communities to foster financial autonomy and cultural identity, like preserve cultural identity in rural cooperatives through the intersection of technology, art, and culture. So the way that it works basically has two parts. The first part is the community itself, the physical meetups that have to do with events that are events for inspiration, connection, and co-creation with very diverse people that are in the like spearheading technological innovation locally, people that are doing things with finance and legal issues, people that are having some type of change or some type of creation there, and indigenous communities, and having a platform for everyone to speak and to kind of show what's happening in each of their areas. And in a way, what that brings is two things. It's the target audience kind of data, like that is always moving, and that is where one of the kind of possibilities for the future integration of AI would be interesting. And the other one is the decision-making process, so that it can go to like a governance system in a future DAO. Because everything we're working with indigenous communities, so there's a really big gap with the technology, and that's why I think it needs to be done in a slow way and humans first kind of thing. And while doing that, the second part, which is the financial autonomy part, is what's trying to kind of work as an incubator of a collaboration between these diverse groups of people to create a project for the rural cooperative that gets funded and backed by NOLO and the knowledge that's kind of in the macro of what NOLO is. And in that aspect, then there's also, tracking processes and logistical operational processes for the first project that's going to be done and things like that. And that can kind of go into helping the new projects that come afterwards. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I find your project very, very inspiring, especially for the indigenous communities and also people that are connected with them. And I know you have some almost 10 years of architectural experience. So mixing those two worlds together, I find it very awesome. And I think what you're doing with decentralizing finance and voting and governance in these communities is amazing. So congratulations, welcome. And Margarita, please tell us.
Hello. Yes, it's so great to be in this group of inspiring female entrepreneurs. And yes, my name is Margarita Margreen. Greetings from Kenya. I am here on a very exciting project right now. I have been creating content for the last 15 years of my life about different things. And about 5 years ago, I started creating content about sustainability and climate action and climate solutions, and really using social media to empower and inspire change. And I gained a lot of expertise within like social media industry in terms of like retention and like driving attention to topics of conservation, environment, climate change, and like really learning how to use the tools and the skills that social media is giving us to kind of like keep people glued to the important topics and conversations. And I also founded environmental media company. So we have like a creator community of people that are telling nature stories in a very exciting way. And we're filming and documenting different projects. So currently in Kenya, yes, we are telling different kinds of stories, actually, from sustainable festivals to mangrove reforestation and focusing on like empowering local communities. And this is like this little term that I trying to popularize, greenfluencing. So it's using social media to, yeah, educate about nature and environment in all different ways, and especially for people that have knowledge and education with PhDs. This is my biggest passion, to push people that actually have the knowledge and solutions on social media to be talking about these things. So obviously with the rise of AI, and I'm closely connected to Meta and like Instagram, TikTok, all of these things, like I started learning about all of these tools since last year, and I've been honestly on the roller coaster. I'm very scared of it, and also the video that you have played before the gathering started, like really started like very interesting questions about like what is this boundary between, being a real human and being a robot, or being this avatar. I also created an avatar for myself where you can type in the text, and this version of Margreen is going to educate about environment. And when I was creating that, that was like a very interesting process. I am like giving my image, my picture, and I think that this is for the greater cause of inspiring more people and telling more positive environmental stories and solutions. But where is the boundary? But back to
Mhm.
you.
Thank you so much. I do agree with this, the use of technology that has these ways, we can use it for inspiring people and empowering communities, but there's also the other way of, creating chaos and just using it for the wrong cause. Hopefully we can guide the development of technologies towards the first one. And I'm sure if we connect like we are connecting now, there is a greater chance to do so. Just going back with some of my personal experiences, I worked with a media startup in Hollywood, and I've never thought about the impact media has on the collective consciousness. And it's really, really amazing what you're doing, Margarita. So let's head on to the first question if you guys want. Let me go. Okay. This question, I think, would be for Sharron, Emily, and Ruth. Any of you can go first, but how are you utilizing AI or the metaverse to drive social change in your field?
Okay, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
As I said, for over 20 years, I've been operating in environments where people will shoot at you. They will drive you out of there if you are talking foolishness and you are not, making a difference. And so I've worked on the Niger Delta. I've worked in Sudan. I've worked in Kenya. I've worked in South Africa. I even work, I'm American. I work in places in the United States where people are hard hit, by natural disasters, et cetera. But they also generally, if we're talking about, I'm a resilience technology specialist, and I'm passionate about how do you leverage technology to make people more resilient, less vulnerable to adverse climate conditions. And so quite often those communities are communities that have been marginalized already. Just like the pandemic didn't impact everyone the same way, right? If you were poor or sick or marginalized already, then the pandemic exacerbated what was already a prior existing condition. It's the same with climate. And so those areas that are already vulnerable are becoming more vulnerable. The difference, and it is actually still related because we live on a sphere. So what goes around gets around. Some of those areas are areas when they fall, the rest of us are really impacted in an adverse way. You take, of course, places in Colombia, Brazil, other places where, these are the lungs of our planet. When those places go, we all go, right? So we're all connected. So getting back to how I use AI, resilience doesn't work without data, because otherwise it's a thumb sucking exercise. Are you more resilient or are you not? Well, I don't know. That doesn't work, right? If we're trying to shift capital at scale, and the World Bank estimates that over the next decade, we need $4 trillion to be invested into resilience. But what is it? How do we measure it? It doesn't work without data. And the kind of trillions of data points that we're talking about, you simply cannot figure it out on a spreadsheet. So one of the things that we've done is we've developed a next generation index, which has 7 subdomains and 137 domains and 137 subdomains, so that we can begin to measure things, for example, like gender inequity, the number of female-headed households in a community, those kinds of things. Those things that are very strategic for the conversations that we're having here today. How do those things relate to a group of people being more vulnerable to climate? Today, very often we're guessing. And so part of what we're doing is we have done the heavy lifting to develop the index. And now what we're doing is starting to partner with big insurance companies and banks as a start to really begin to measure how these factors, some of those factors that I've mentioned, relate to climate, so that we can develop better products, better services, better interventions, so that we can help people to become stronger before the disaster happens, and not just cleaning up after the disaster. So that's what we're about. Thanks.
Amazing. Yeah, I definitely agree with this measurement thing. And I think it's also related with this scientific flow we've got in the past few decades. If you don't measure it, you don't know if you're improving or if you're going the wrong way. And I'm working a lot with regenerative agriculture, and we have this same challenge in how do we measure if the soil is healthier or not. How do we measure the carbon inside the soil? And at least here in Colombia, these are questions that almost no one is asking. And these are really, really important questions, and we need to know how to measure it. So I'm definitely gonna check this next generation index for the research I'm gonna do with the team these next years. So thank you, Sharron. Emily, you want to go next for this question?
Yeah, no, I'm Sharon. That was really interesting. I'm definitely gonna check that out too. That sounds really important. For me and what I do, I'm more focused on individual healing to generate collective shifts. And I think with climate change, it's one of those obviously global issues that we all need to contribute to on some level. You know, like there are obviously governments and companies and things that contribute in greater ways than we do as individuals, but we as the individuals do have the power to influence that. But we live in a culture that has trained us to believe we don't have a voice, and if we don't think we have a voice, we won't think to use it, and we won't think that we have that power. So with what I do, I try and simplify things as much as possible and just think about like the everyday. So with my Mind Bite series, it's simple techniques that we can all incorporate just internally with our minds. And I feel that if we are going to be able to get into a position where we as individuals are willing to contribute to change, we have to first recognize that we have the power to do so, but we need to learn how to value our own decisions. And in order for us to value our decisions, we need to be able to make effective decisions and have faith in our decisions and our choices. And we can't do that if we're overloaded by overthinking and by our emotionability. And I feel like historically in our education system, we don't necessarily learn about emotional intelligence, and we don't necessarily learn about how to effectively process our thoughts. We don't really think of our thoughts as tangible things, and we don't really address them as such. You know, if we don't have language, if we don't have words, do we have thoughts? You know, like before thought, there was feeling. And if we want to be able to contribute to the collective changes that we need, then we need to be able to effectively process how we feel. And our thoughts are an important part of that. So for me, I feel like I'm on a very simplistic level of what I'm trying to contribute to, and this I'm just trying to present ways in which we can feel comfortable in our own minds. I think for a lot of people with depression, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, we can be afraid of our minds, especially when it comes to overthinking, and we feel like we're out of control of our mind. We may feel like we're out of control of the world too. You know, it all expands outwards, it manifests, right? So that's kind of where I'm starting. I want people to be okay with not being okay, and then present little tips of how we can learn to feel okay with that. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Nice, really interesting thoughts. And also, I have felt this way, right? Especially with social media algorithms that just present to you just images of things you don't really want to see, or make you feel bad, or sometimes even depressed. And all these algorithms are ingrained into the how the core of the system works, and how those systems want to show you some things, let's say. And it's I take this idea back to you, Emily, because I know you did some research on subconscious bias on algorithms, and I saw the 100 Days of Color project. I thought it was amazing to do this research and to find that even if you kind of show the algorithm what you want to see, it always has this bias, and it brings you back to what it wants it to show you. So how do you think this will develop in the next years with the use of AI in social media, let's say, or music?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. That I wasn't expecting you to mention that. I'll just give a quick brief to everyone. The 100 Days of Color was a study I did looking at the relationship between subconscious bias and algorithmic bias. and I monitored the way Spotify was recommending music to me based on race and color. And I found patterns, and I was able to sort of backtrack that information and correctly identify the racial demographic of the programmers in Spotify. And this really showed me that, no matter how much we interact with our algorithms so that they can learn for us to cater to our needs, there's still that underlying bias which is provided in the initial programming. So how do we combat that? I kind of thought about this earlier, and there was something that I think Jamie mentioned in the previous panel, and it was talking about why. And for me, I think this is the most important question that we need to answer moving forwards. And we need to establish why we create. Why do we do what we do? Why do we make the decisions that we do? And then that's the question that we give to our AI and to these algorithms. And then it's going to take that and expand it exponentially. Right now, the why is survival. The why is money. It's numbers on a screen, which is really how I see money. I know money doesn't hold a lot of value to me because it's just a bunch of numbers on a screen. And so, in the end, if you give the AI and the future of our technology that as the foundation, the why of what we do is to expand this number exponentially, then, we're going to suffer for that. But if we can make the why pleasure, if we can make the why fulfillment, if we can make the why ensuring that everyone has the opportunity and the resources to fulfill the potential, the AI can take that and expand it exponentially, which is amazing. But I think it's hard for us to commit to that because there are so many people that still have a negative view of humanity's potential. And I think whether or not you're willing to invest in humanity is dependent on whether or not you're willing to see the potential of humanity. And if you look at all of the scary things that are happening in the world and have happened in the past, you're going to see that as humanity's potential. But then there's also so much beauty to us and so much kindness and compassion. And if we focus on that and expand that, then we can create a more beautiful world. So yeah, I think setting the intention and the purpose and the why is the most important thing that we can do right now.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Emily. And for closing this question, Ruth, you want to share your comments and how AI and the metaverse, because you're so, you have been working with XR for the past years. So how does that relate to you and your experience?
Yeah, so I definitely want to recognize that virtual reality and immersive technology is a privilege, and it is not available to everyone on this planet. It's available to very few in actuality. And my focus is on understanding it almost like a microcosm of how to redistribute that privilege. For example, I've been doing a preliminary interview process with trolls in virtual reality for the last 6 months, where I've actually been going into the environments where they are doing their trolling and asking them a series of questions about their framework of where they have boundaries or they don't have boundaries in that intentional irritation that they are causing. And when does that turn to bullying? And what is, quote, allowed in trolling and not allowed in trolling? And understanding that culture of very privileged people who have the obvious time to actually target people and try to create discord has been really eye-opening for me in understanding cancel culture patterns all the way up. And so simultaneously, sometimes on the same day, I'll be doing a scheduled interview with a troll. I've gotten to the point where they're actually reaching out to me to schedule those interviews. And then I'm also doing cancel culture coaching with people in very high leadership positions who have been struggling with how to address concerns that have been brought out and called out in the community, and also be a part of transformational justice and join the cause that is more than corrective or restorative, but also looking at how did the system lead to such a vicious cancel culture cycle. And even though it's not the same series of questions for both parties, there's some really common answers I'm finding, and I'm appreciating how that immersive technology is allowing people that might do these kinds of behaviors in secret or more insidious or subterfuge are much more willing to talk very openly about what they understand in their behavior and how they see it going long term.
Ruth, I feel like you could write a book about that called Interview with a Troll. Like, I feel like that would be really interesting.
Yeah, we've been hypothesizing different titles. I think the latest one is The Art of Trolling, which is from a quote of a troll. And recognizing that there are a few people out there that are doing this and actually do have some sense of ethics or morals to it and are specifically targeting trolls. So they're trolling the trolls as kind of their like community service of sorts. From a psychologist end of things, I could definitely argue with those ideas, but also understanding that it's a type of protectiveness and it is also a type of amends of sorts, because before you learn how to troll trolls, you just troll. So yeah, it's a fascinating process. And I think the best part for me is that as opposed to going to a school system where there's bullies or going to a prison, in virtual reality, you have very vivid imagery that includes asking these people to take me to their favorite immersive environment where they troll and asking them, why is this environment so stimulating for you? And then even asking them to change their avatars to embody that villain or that irritant and show me their kind of slide deck of options and tools without hopefully crashing my own technology. But mostly they've been very respectful, and it's like they take a coffee break from that harmful behavior and genuinely answer their questions and then go right back to it. And so I've learned a lot about my own self and where I get very activated and want to judge and condemn. And hopefully, as we start to release some of these clips and videos, it will be useful for other people to kind of see the humanity behind and think about different solutions. I think tying back to Sharron, I believe that there's a cycle where we throw things away, including people, and we participate in this environmental crisis by just like putting it out of our minds. And so this is my activism and social change is about recognizing if we throw these people away, there's just going to be more and more people to throw away. How do we actually like offer a reconciliation loop for these people and education cycles and invest in not just influencers, but community leaders who are actually taking that power and redistributing it back into their community instead of just being like, I'm the chosen one, which is more the influencer culture in general. So yeah, there's a lot there.
Wow, amazing. While you were talking, I was imagining this kind of system that has feedback loops and reinforcing loops. And sometimes we want to kind of stop a behavior, but if we don't think about these loops, it might be harder to lead the direction to another way. So very, very interesting how you see it, and I completely agree. Awesome. Let's go to our next question for Margarita and Andrea. What challenges have you faced in leveraging technology for social good, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah, definitely a lot of challenges with technology and social media, and just hearing your thoughts, Emily and Ruth, it's just, yeah, it resonates so well. I spend so much time on social media, just engaging with content, like different types, positive and negative. And I experience very high levels of anxiety and have like super achiever tendencies, and just like really want to help. And what's happening around is not always that wonderful and positive, and just like a very fast-paced reality, and traveling and different events and interactions with people and different causes that I want to engage with and participate, like that all creates a lot of like personal challenge. And yeah, definitely eco anxiety. I was at COP, when was that, like almost a month ago. It was 12 days. Everyone was engaging in amazing discussions about positive, what I believe, positive future of our planet. But it's so fast paced, and everyone is talking about moving forward with all of these technologies, but do we have time and space to process how it's actually affecting the environment, how it's affecting people, and even like with things like renewable energy and solar panels, like do we really have enough time to assess how it's affecting the land where we put these technologies in, and just our bodies, like how just like so much screen time, how does it affect me, and like from which COP am I then sharing this content that I want to believe that is beneficial for the world. So it's really, yeah, just like finding this balance, and being here in Kenya, in Africa, and I am back to being nomadic now, living this nomadic lifestyle. I was living in Portugal before, where I was very focused and productive with all of my gadgets and technologies around me, so I can do multiple things and all of these things. And now here is completely different environment, and really invites me to slow down, and to, my laptop broke, for example, like even like small things like that, like incredibly affect productivity level, and what I can do, what I can produce, how I can help. So from that standpoint is really just like, yeah, coming back to the root, the basic is taking care of our own well-being and mental health, and like dealing with personal anxiety, then eco anxiety, and then from that place, then we can serve and actually spread that inspiration and awareness that I really want to spread.
Awesome. Really, really awesome that you went to COP28 and share these insights with us. Because even I also sometimes feel this anxiety about climate change, and
Mhm.
I do the best I can do in my daily life. And I have changed many things that add up or sum up. For example, the diet, and the transportation, and uh, the products I use, the clothes.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's so great to connect with people like you, who inspire from the positive side, and not just judge on all the things that we are doing wrong. There is actually a bright future, and if we can imagine it, we can create it. So
Absolutely, I agree. But using technology is definitely like, it's so great, so wonderful. It makes my life so much easier, using AI like for creative tools, breaking things down, being more organized. But then when I go too much into this world, into this like technological AI unreal, yeah, we need to go back to nature. Just nature is the core of everything. The more time we spend in nature, the more we look at it, the more we can do good things in the world and be productive, and all these systems and strategies.
definitely, I agree. Andrea, please share your thoughts.
Going back to that, actually, I wanted to start on the why that Emily was speaking about, because I think that most of the time when people work with marginalized communities, it's seen in an assistentialism approach, where it's very much like, I am helping you. That already kind of creates these hierarchies just inherently, and I think that the mindset shift needs to be that the way that things were done in indigenous communities, like ancestral knowledge, it really is technology. It's not only anthropology, sociology. It really is a completely different way our neural system works. It's many connections done at once and an integral framework. So that has a direct relation with the way that we're programming technology now. And so I wanted to speak about many different things there, because like the first one is speed, right? The technology is exponential, and it can, you know, create effects in fast ways and stuff like that. But I think we need to go back to the human element, which is what, you know, Emily and Ruth were also speaking about, because that's why that first part of NOLO is so important. That's why that's the focus this year, which is like, just let's get together and let's start talking about what it is that's really moving you, not only in a separate scheme of like, this is the indigenous community that we go to the middle of the mountain to talk to, but we are bringing all the ideas together. Like, one of the beautiful things that happened when we started kind of launching these events we work with two communities in Peru. One that is the Shipibo Conmigo community in Cantagallo. I'm from Peru. And the second one that is the Queros community, that's like 5,500 meters high in the mountains of Peru. So that's like 16,400 feet for reference. And there's very different, you know, cultures, very different mindsets, but a lot of things that also unite people. And it's bringing the people from these communities together with the people that are working in like technology, innovation, AI, blockchain in the local spaces. The people that are, for example, in Cusco, when we did the event, we had like academic, like deans for universities in the city. And we had people that are creators and artists and community organizers, and the tech people. And so, for example, in this situation, like they came and they only spoke, most of the people that came, of the women that came from this town, they speak only Quechua. So we were speaking about blockchain in AI in Quechua terms, but not only in Quechua as a language, but also like in terms that could be understood as for why is it important in the community for you to maybe take into advantage this technology, right? And if you want to, and why would you want to, and what would you need to know, and why would you, what would you want to empower yourself in, like what do you want to do, you know, and things like that. That data needs to be collected before anything else. And there needs to be a sense of community, because the thing is that most of the communities that have been marginalized, at least in Peru, and I know that this happens in Latin America in general, there's a lot of discrimination with, you know, indigeneity and things like that. And so when people come into a new space with new, different, diverse people, there's a kind of like a wall, an internal wall that needs to be torn down. And I think I go back to what Emily is saying, because it's so important that we all see each other as leaders, and that we all see each other as creators, because we're not going to be able to really do like systematic change if we don't see each other as that. So it's different to work with a community, go there and be like, hey, this is the technology and this is what I'm giving to you and this is how you use it, which is what I've seen up until now. Like, okay, use this phone, and like there's ways to translate, you know, a community that doesn't have maybe a lot of internet or just like maybe the maximum that of technology is like a Nokia phone or something, and like there's no signal in the places that they live. Like there's all these factors to think about, right? It's different to go in and be like, this is the solution for you. Let me, you know, use it according to what I've already planned, versus, and I think that this is a systematic change. Just first of all, having a sense of community that's a broader community, that's not only the rural community, but the whole community of the people that think and believe that this knowledge needs to be in the forefront of innovation. And have a platform for each of them to speak, just as like the same amount for people that are in the indigenous communities with the people that are talking about tech, and have these moments of like co-creation and questions and all these things. And I think that this is really kind of the plasma behind whatever needs to be created, because whatever happens in the second part, which is the like financial autonomy part, that has to do more with like building a business model and getting funding for it, and actually like getting through like training processes so that the internal team of that community itself has the skill sets within themselves, so that there's real autonomy in the long term, which is a long-term thing. Whatever that project is, whatever the idea is, can always be put back in the soundboard of the plasma of the NOLO community at large. That's not only in Cusco or in Lima or in Miami, but wherever it has to be at some point, no? But it has to start like that. It has to go slow, and it has to start with a human element, and it has to start with really why people care. And so the second kind of big clue in that is who is behind the programming of the technology, right? Who is behind the AI? Like, who is behind how the blockchain is programmed? Because it's great because that these technologies exist, but really, who is programming it? And therefore, what is that bias, which is what Emily was saying, that is influencing a whole group of people in very like undercover ways that they don't notice, right? And so how can we put that in the people's hands, right? So we are partnering up with tech training communities that are local in Peru and also in the US for whatever needs to be learned, like AI courses, cybersecurity, or blockchain, or just how to create your webpage. Like, we have to go back to like the basics, right? And so doing all these things, but at the same time, while they give the courses, the people from the indigenous communities also give courses on how they see agriculture and how they see, how they've been working with textiles and how the technique works and how this has been transferred, intergenerationally. Because at the end, these are systems. That's the thing. Like, most indigenous communities come from like a knowledge that comes intergenerationally, that has been passed on orally. And most of this knowledge is abstract. It's very systematic. It's geometry. It's a way to, like, if you understand how agriculture works, you can understand processes of life and death, and you can understand processes of beginning and end of projects, or how to program, structure, or things like that. But those things are only going to be thought of by the people that are studying that thing. So that's why we need to join together the indigenous community with the tech innovator, with the architect, or whatever, because that's the only way these ideas start to come out. And then people start to see that this is not a knowledge that has been passed on by the grandfather, and the grandfather has been discriminated, that I want to cut off and go and earn money from whatever other thing and cut off my identity, versus this is my identity, this is important, and it's not only anthropology, but it's really something that can lay the grid line for whatever needs to be done in innovation and in technology, and how we're using it and putting it in our hands, right?
Yes, definitely. I love this part where you talk about co-creating with different types of knowledge, because, as you say, sometimes this hierarchy we have in our minds, that we are going to save you and you need my help and my technology, it's not always right. It doesn't always fit in what communities want and what communities need. So it's really, really awesome that you are gathering all this knowledge and distributing the power in a decentralized way. If we can, I'm gonna do one last question, and maybe we can speed up, maybe 1 minute answer each. All right. Okay, this is the question. Can you briefly discuss the potential of AI and the metaverse in shaping future societal structures? Sharron, you want to go first?
Yeah. I think that the potential for AI in shaping future societal structures is tremendous. I mean, we know, that's kind of a softball, because we know that AI is already influencing every industrial sector on Earth, right? But what I'd love to just give as my final parting shot is that I think that AI has enormous potential in terms of how we close what I call the value action gap. In order for us to really begin to solve for climate, governments alone can't do it. Groups of individuals alone can't do it. We actually need the private sector. We need businesses on board. We need their resources, financial resources, and other kinds of resources, including the human capital. We need academia on board. There has to be this coming together of civil society, the private sector, government, et cetera. And I think one of the things that AI has a potential to do is to help to close that value action gap, which is keeping businesses in particular. They know that climate is impacting their operations. Many times they value action, but they don't take the action. Why don't they take the action? That's another discussion that we'll have for another time. But I think AI can be used to really help to define action, to inform decision making, and more importantly, speed up the time that is required in order to take action that can make all the difference in terms of saving lives and livelihoods. Thanks.
Amazing. Really, really interesting, this value action gap. I've never heard of this before. And I mean, definitely AI can speed up this process in different countries and bioregions, but definitely very interesting. Emily?
So this isn't the first time that a question has been asked in one of these panels, and the first thing that came to my mind was Star Trek. I'm just like remembering the scenes where they're like programming the holodeck and they're standing in that room and they give the computer commands and they're like, make this person taller or change the color of his hair or whatever, and then it just kind of happens. And I'm thinking, like, what would that show be like if we had to manually program that? Like, if all of those characters had to manually enter the coding to make all of those changes, like, we wouldn't watch the show. It would be so boring, like it would take so long. And I feel like that is kind of, where we're going, and it's going to provide us with so many opportunities to do so much. And I think it's important that we learn to value our time more. I think that generally, like, we don't necessarily value our time. Like, there's so many people that hold the key to the next great technology, but they're spending 40 hours a week flipping burger patties just trying to get by. And and I think that humanity is the greatest resource we have, and I think AI has the potential to tap into that and to cultivate that. But again, we've got to establish the why. Why do we want to cultivate this potential? I think that's where we've got to start. Yeah.
Definitely. The why is kind of the center of it all. And also the self, in terms of the regenerative concept or design. We look at bioregions, we look at technology, we look at governance, but it's always the self and the why, what is in the center, and that brings all that to life. So really beautiful, Emily. Thank you. Ruth?
Yeah, I would say that AI is a complementary piece to immersive technologies and can hopefully help us dig our way out of the current dream. I think of metaverse or immersive as a collective dream state that we get to share our dreams and our nightmares and our visions with each other. And by default, so far, the predominant myth or dream for humans with immersive technology who are in positions of power within technology is the movie and book Ready Player One, which is a very dystopian view, white male-centering view of where we're going with our technology. And I believe that we get to use both AI and immersive technology to rewire that dream and actually create an inclusive vision together of how we can belong with equity with our planet also. So that starts with doing that arm wrestling and engagement wherever we are, creating safe spaces to have uncomfortable conversations, and also getting playful with that. And I think that immersive tech, especially social VR, demonstrates that playfulness. It is astounding to me, the hours and intentionality that goes into some of the avatars within social VR to just cause irritation. It's stunning to me that people spend that amount of time really constructing and building something that is revolting, but also like very colorful. So I think that, that's creative energy used destructively. How do we rewire that to find and build bridges for all the levels and not end up in this Ready Player One future where everyone's kind of given up? And so I think AI is going to help us with that, first by showing us our unconscious bias, which we've been hearing about and I've been looking into also. I think it's a great window to be like, hey, racism is still real. Supremacy thinking is a big deal. It's still very systematized. And how do we rewire? Yeah.
Yeah, that brings me to the idea of the possibility of the combination of blockchain and AI, and how these blockchain technologies can start to decentralize knowledge and algorithms in a more sustainable way. I think we're gonna see that in the future more often, and there's a great potential there as well. But yeah, really, really interesting, Ruth. Thank you. Margarita?
Yes, absolutely. I agree that there is a huge potential with AI. What Sharron was saying regarding data, definitely need to find a way to just study more, study our impact, and immersive tech, immersive experiences. I'm very excited about that because it's engaging content. Definitely helps us to level up with education and just like help people to think about outside of the box about all of these solutions that are already available to us, and like engage about climate solutions and just climate conversations on a completely different level, and use creativity and imagination to like really pour our energy in there. But I'm scared. I'm scared of it. And for experts, yes, definitely. Let's go. Data, break it down, make it better, faster. But for everyone else, going so fast without like really seeing how it does affect the brain, and like, are we ready for this yet? Maybe definitely slow down.
Yeah, it's like the brain that works in the fast pathway and the slow pathway, and we need both to really have a deep conversation with ourselves, with others, but also to take fast decisions in terms of survival and all these things. And something I imagined while you were talking, Margarita, is what will happen if we start teaching small children to experience reality in not in a human way, but for example, as a tree, or as a microorganism in the soil, or as the mycelium that connects us all.
I
Having
love that idea.
different perspectives that could only be possible with the metaverse, and
Yes.
can really open our minds to what's possible, and not just having our human experience to have this perspective of reality.
That's honestly, that's a great idea. But first, they have to experience it as children. World.
Yes. Andrea, please finish
Yeah,
up.
I think that we need to stop thinking of adapting ourselves to technology and adapt technology to humanity and to whatever that means in different areas and in different cultures, right? And the second thing, what you were talking about, it's already happening. I was just in a concert of plants like 3 days ago, where they used this like closed loop of electricity in different plants, and they did these frequencies, and they've done that in the Amazon rainforest and created like visuals through AI. And there's this company that is doing that that I was just looking at like 2 days ago, and I think that that's beautiful because it starts showing how similar we are to nature. And that's one of the main issues, right? That we think that we're like humans and nature, but like we are nature, and we need to start seeing ourselves as part of that bigger kind of system. And speaking about that, I think most of the societal structures are thought of up until now as organizations, and they're static organizations. And I think we need to go into the idea of organisms, and organisms that are always in movement, just how nature works. Nothing is static in nature. And so how can we use technology to go back to that and to start analyzing things in that way? And I think that the key for that is in the intersection within DAOs and blockchain and AI. And how do we bring together like diverse communities and opinions and start grabbing that data, and AI starts regurgitating like whatever, governance processes and things like that through the DAO that starts creating more of an organism type of structure that's not an organization. So that's kind of what we're trying to do more in the long term with Noel, because at the end it's little steps, you know, pasito a pasito, like little steps and just kind of grabbing what the insight is in each little step, because if not, we don't take into account humanity.
Yeah. Wow, I love that idea of transforming organizations from organizations to organisms that adapt to their environment and are ever evolving, you know. Really, really beautiful. And thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I loved it. I enjoyed it, every second of it. I learned so much from you all. I hope we can meet after this panel and really dive deep into all these new ideas that came up in this event. Really, really thankful, Chris and all the GatherVerse team for making this possible. This is amazing, and so happy to have you all here. So have a beautiful day, and let's keep watching these
Thank you
panels.
so much, everyone.
Thank
That
you
was
so much. It
amazing.
was so nice to talk to you. See you all
Take
again.
care. Keep doing amazing work.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.